A little bit about me. I used to work for an insurance company, FAI and HIH. They went into liquidation. The bosses, Rodney and Ray Williams, decided to embezzle $3 billion. And I retired 2 days before they went down the gurgler and got out and took my super and invested it and then decided to retire. Prior to that, I liked making jewellery. Always had a fascination in creating things. My father was a very good engineer and he could make anything from a surgical pin to go in your knee to a low loader. And so looking at Dad creating various pieces of steels, copper and other bits and pieces, I was always fascinated. But I didn't like the end result. The end result was he was going blind from getting flashes in his eyes and hot metal off what he was cutting. Or, as Marcus should be experiencing, a loss of hearing because he's using a chainsaw. So he might end up with tinnitus over a long period of time. Anyway, over a period of years, my life changed. I was without a job for a while. I then got a job through CES, gardening, and that brought me to a lady who had a wonderful house in Roseville. Around about 40 squares of house. Every single window and door in the entire house was all LED light. But like a lot of people who create things, LED light doesn't have it doesn't last forever. It grows. It actually starts to sag, and every single window and door in this house was sagging. Now, if you imagine a nice 1920s house, went through the Depression, so instead of losing the house, they divided the house into different areas. The front veranda got covered in those awful louvers, so someone lived in the front part of the house. So imagine 20 or 30 people live in this huge house. Now, we come up to around about 1987 when I was lost a job, sale of a job. I'm working for a lady, I'm making $4.50 an hour. Whoopie-doo! Gardening, doing something I liked. I was getting my hands in. This is the first part of me creating things. And so I was in the garden. The house was covered in weeds. You couldn't see the house. They went on holidays, came back 2 weeks later, went over the hill and down the other side. Their house had disappeared. I had removed all the weeds out of the garden so you could actually admire this grand old lady sitting on the hill. Again, this is creation of art. Further things happened and they went away again. I removed all the glass louvers. Again, I was creating art because I was bringing this beautiful old house to its fruition. I then sieved all the paths, so all the paths were made of little pebbles like the ironstone pebbles. That was all weeds. So over 9 years I hand sieved it all. So I recreated this wonderful house. But in the process of doing the gardening, I wanted to also do the LED light windows and doors. Now if you imagine glass, not glass like we get today, it's made in Germany, it's made in Poland, it's made in America. You've got stuff called Whiplash, which is this. This is wonderful glass, but a bugger to cut. Smooth on one side and rough on the other. You can cut it with an electric saw with water, or you do it by hand. Anyway, I was going to restore the windows and doors, and I went to a Dutchman in Moringa, and he showed me out of a large piece of glass this big, I had to get as many reasonable sized shapes out of that without much wastage. And I was with him for about, what's the term of TAFE, 3 months, 4 months. I was with him for that period of time, but he only could show me a certain amount. I then went and found a man called Jeff Hamilton, who works out at Kippax Street and Elizabeth Street in Sydney, and he's one of the leading glass designers in Sydney. And what he does for colleges and churches is just absolutely wonderful. Look at his name up on the computer. Absolutely wonderful work. So I started with him part-time, creating silly little things. Like, I cut these up. I've made somewhere in the vicinity of 20,000 stars. Now these I only bought 3 pieces long, I should have bought 6, but anyway. You imagine that in all the colours of the rainbow. You can get it in iridised glass, glass that changes colour. If that goes onto a fluorescent tube, that goes blue. If it goes on an incandescent globe, it goes pink. So you've got to take these things into consideration. So I then started to make these 20,000 6-pointed stars. All sold, all gone. But over a period of doing these all the time, it becomes very repetitive. I'll pass these around and you can have a look. This was created in 2000. And you pass on the rows. This is called Sales. And there was a gentleman that came from America, and he said, you can only create a simple pattern. I had been with Jeff Hamilton for about a year at this stage. Just leave him, whatever. And the gentleman in America said, oh, you can't allow people to create anything. What I'm saying is, if you want to create something, have a go. There's no limitation. So I did that in 1990. 1990. And people say, why did you create that piece of work? And I said, that is how my mind works all the time, the complications in that. So that's Sales in Sydney Harbour. From there, I went and created lampshades. Now, I've got lampshades in brothels. I've got lampshades all around Sydney. Some are really cheap, some are really expensive. I've done yellow ones with black trim. And then I've hand sewn 15,000, 20,000 beads with a black bead and a little bead, all hand done by my hands. So a pair of goggles on, magnifying glasses, I am sewing this stuff together. Now I can go to Melbourne and I can buy beaded trim for ladies to put around dresses or lamps or anything else. I don't want it made by somebody else. I want to create it myself. In the process of doing all this, I then started to do lamps, but I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. So then I started doing copper lamps, copper with glass. Copper, as I mentioned, the night I won the Artentwine Award, which is a central thing. It is absolutely wonderful. It's with earth. It's a raw material that people can create into anything. You can bend it, you can twist it, you can do whatever you like. Not like the sculpture that I created, because stainless steel is an unforgiving metal. It wants to go back to being a flat image. It doesn't like being twisted. It wants to go back to being flat. Copper, you can do anything with it. You can push it in, you can push it out. But on that lamp that I created there, I just did it because I could. These are also the other lights that I did at the time. The corner lead on these is very hard to find anywhere, and I had 3 boxes of the stuff made just for me to make these lamps. And these were put outside my house in Terry Hills. And since I left there, they left too. Where am I going? I live out at Karula. I've got 25 acres, and I'm creating a visual piece of art. I'm creating an arboretum. I've just planted 175 Sitka spruces, so in 10 or 20 years' time, those trees will be able to be harvested and turned into violins and guitars, not tissues and matchsticks. So the whole idea is that when you come over Lowler Hill and look at my property in the distance, in spring, autumn, the whole hill will be a blaze of colour. You'll have the greens and the greens of the cherry birch, which will give me maple syrup in time. The silver birches will give me tea. I've got walnut trees. I've got all the rarest trees in the world growing at my place. Now, the first sculpture that I wanted to create is this one. It's just an expression of my mind. It's all to do with the mind, folks, because that's where we get our inspiration. This is called Just Garlic, Blows in the Wind. It's a pun on the words. It's a part. Sorry about that, but that's what it is, it's a part. It's just something I wanted to put up. I wanted the birds to sit on it. I wanted them to just to become one with the earth and show what I can do for myself. I have a man across the valley from me, Trevor, and he helps me create amazing things. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. It's just me. A Japanese man in Terry Hills had a sculpture, and I used to look upon this sculpture every day of my life, and he used to look upon my lamps. And at the top of the drive I had a huge copper arch. It was all made of 100 by 100 mil timber, and I went out and bought 200 lineal feet of copper shim, this stuff, which is $44,000 a tonne at the moment. Anyway, I covered the whole 10 foot by 10 foot arch in copper, and then I grew wisteria, 3 different kinds of wisteria. The long black one, or dark blue, with a pale blue and a white over the top. And beyond that was this huge Buddha. And he used to pray to Buddha, being a Buddhist. He used to pray to, it's a Korean Buddha, not a real Buddha, but it gave him the sense that he was praying to Buddha. And he absolutely loved that. Now, when I left Terry Hills, he gave me, which you can't see this, but I will get around to explain it, in the middle of this pond, which is very large and very, very deep for various reasons, it's cowpox, but I wanted something that people can't reach in and take the bronze sculpture. In the middle of there is a bronze sculpture of a lady called Strong Desire, and she stands with a hand on the hip, and it's better for a lady to do it rather than me, and her leg is forward and her hand is pushed into the breast, and she's looking at it like this. Well, it's absolutely wonderful. He gave me the sculpture and I gave him one of my glass lamps. Now that's in a huge pond between my house and my studio. Again, this is creating art. I'm getting to the end of this process. What I'm saying is everybody can create something. It doesn't matter whether you speak, talk about poetry, make a pie, anything. There are so many people here in Tasmania that can create art. There's a lot of you who don't do anything. Here is some glass panels. This is, we'll do this one. Sorry, I'm jumping. I'm getting anxious. This one is called Circles of Friendship. It's 6,500 steel washers welded together with a MIG welder. 3 different sizes, and it shows circles of friendship, and it shows that we are all interconnected. Very synonymous to being, I think that's the right word for being here in Tasmania, because everyone's related to everybody else. And I have lots of people who come out to my place and say, oh, can I be that washer? Or can I be that one? It is really hard. It was hard to do because I had no idea how to use a MIG welder. Hated it. So we went out and got a better welder. I believe there's a way of doing it now that you can actually just put all the washers into a mould, put a magnet on it, and touch it, and it goes, bing, and it's all together. Isn't that wonderful? So that was the first sculpture I did. Then people ask me, why do I create what I create? I look at people, I will look at what they wear, patterns like in Peter's shirt, very bright, very gay, and I'm thinking, I can't use it, Peter, but someone who could create a painting would take a snapshot, a small portion of that, and create it into a piece of artwork. We create our own things, but sometimes we take a portion of what someone's wearing and create it into a different. We interpret someone's piece of work in a different way and come up with a different concept. At the bottom of my property is this two pieces of work, and this is called Togetherness. It's round about a 4-inch plate steel. I wanted it bent a certain way, but guess what? They can't do it. And so it's just two pieces of work standing side by side. The one thing I made a mistake there was one piece had to be bent the other way. So I could have then got them standing closer together. And the other thing I did do wrong was I painted it black, because the black is now pouring off it. I could have it sandblasted and galvanised and then powder coated, but it's not going to give me, I can't keep on reinventing the wheel with that particular sculpture. Another one that we tried to do, and this is, anyway, this is called Creation, and as you'll note at the top there's a small portion of a circle on the top. There was supposed to be one at the bottom. Now this particular sculpture is standing on a 100mm square hollow post which has been bashed into the ground. Inside it are 2 hydraulic rams, all greased up and oiled, and then the top part, which is like a square rectangular basket, sits on the top of that. The circle is 3 metres in diameter, and it actually spins on its own axis. It will, if the wind just gets it just right, it will actually spin slowly, but it doesn't spin fast enough. So I'm now going to change the inside of it by putting some baffles, either done in full-length pieces of glass or perspex or something, so that it actually spins permanently. As the wind goes around, it will actually spin on its all the time. Or I put a cog up underneath it, like a tooth cog in a little engine, and run it to a solar panel, and when the sun's out, it will just spin. I haven't got there. It's really not in how I... It's not the type of artwork I want to get into, but I have. Now,
is that painted or is it rusty?
I painted it, yes. It was rusty, yes. And I thought, well, I can have it chromed. I just put on a rust-proof paint. I painted a pale pumpkin colour, and it just did nothing. So I wanted something brighter. I painted my shed on the top of the hill Colonel Mustard Yellow, and you can see it from one end of Corolla Valley to the other. And you know why I did that? To upset the locals. And I used to call my property Tall Trees. But one day I was going down the old steep driveway and a tall tree fell down. So, hey Trevor, come and help me. We chopped down 50 trees. And someone said, they went past and I had this big sign, Tall Trees, and someone went over and put a piece of paper on it and called it Short Stumps. Now, it's called Corolla House because I'm on a hill and they're all below me. This is what I love to do. Absolutely love it. This panel is 500 mils by 370. This is copper foil work. This is what I breathe about. This is me. Steals me too, to a certain degree, as I've just found out. But this is what I create. Copper foil. This is 0.25 of a mil in thickness. It is slightly strong, but not too strong. Darn expensive, and sticky on one side and plain on the other. So these, what? This is woven copper foil. Now on one side it's woven, and on the other side it's just laid over the top because it's basically what I'm creating at the moment. This is woven on the inside because as you can see the copper there, it's woven. I can't, and I haven't got it through my brain how to do this. I think I've worked out how to do it. I'm just now putting the copper over the top. So there's 100 verticals and 25 horizontals. I have to have it divisible by an even number. So if I have 90 uprights, I will have to have 30 horizontals to get this. So this will be a light. So to be able to have this is what I love doing. It's just wonderful. And this is the copper foil. Now the copper foil comes in black backed. So if you've got a clear glass and you're creating a piece of work that is shiny, whether you either leave it shiny or you put a patina over the top, there's silver backed, black backed and copper backed. If you're not going to see the edge, like in these, so this is the foil around a piece of glass. This is what I make in lampshades. So I can make a lampshade like Tiffany used to make, any shape, any size. And the smaller the piece of glass, the better I like it.
So you just wrap the foil around and tightly pinch it in?
Yes, you use your nail or a lathican to make it flat. Now when you're actually making a lampshade, if you just put flat pieces onto a mould, whatever you're making it on, it doesn't fit together because they're pieces like that. So I then grind the back off to make them all fit together for a tighter fit. Okay, and that's time consuming. This is a portion of my work. I know the conversation's jumping around, but this will explain the complexities. That is what I wanted to do on here, but I just haven't got around how to do it because it's sticky on the other side. I can't weave sticky tape. I think I've worked out how to do it. I have to put these pieces of tape on this side, and I have to peel it off. One little quarter-inch square at a time. Go around, then pull it back, then go again and put another one over the top. Okay. But in the meantime, I'm creating a stepped light.
A what light?
Well, it's going to be this will be a light shade, and the pattern is it's stepped. There's a stepping, one across, four up. That's why it's 100 uprights and 25 horizontals. Then I've got to make another one of these. Once I've made one, I might make 20 or 30. Depends on the size. So it's either a flat image that you're creating by weaving it, which is easy to do, or one of these. So that's it, folks. That's what I'm about. Any questions?
Like 100.
Sorry?
Like 100.
We'll ask.
So it's wonderful. It's really wonderful.
Look, I love the... I love my stainless steel sculpture, which unfortunately is now going to be here. I might make another one. I would actually like to learn how to do blind soldering on copper, because copper to me it's so central. It is. I know I mentioned the other night. I thought, oh God, people think I'm mad, but it's just this wonderful thing. Not all metals are nice to touch. Steel is not nice to touch. If it's been coated or powder coated, then you can touch it. It's easy to touch like this. But copper has a different feel about it. It's just pliable. It's just beautiful. And I think this is an understated medium, the copper.
It can be sensual, can't it?
Very, very sensual. I like hugging a tree. Do any of you ever go and hug a tree?
Yes.
Oh, really? I thought I was the only crazy one.
No, this is how we all end up in the arts.
What, in the earth?
I just think if you're a child that hugs trees, you probably end up working in the arts.
I love the garden, but my back and neck won't allow me to work there. That's why I'm creating an arboretum. If you'd like to come out to my property, you're more than welcome. I'm very happy to anybody coming out. So I'll hand some business cards around later and take it from there. Yes, please.
Where do you source your materials from?
In what?
Say copper.
Copper, I can either order it online or I go down to Margate, go to Tudor Rose, or Australian stained glass supplies. As far as this copper goes, I haven't bought any for years because I bought so much of it in the first place, and I've got a lot of it left over. Probably weeds.
You can get it from recyclers too. I have bought a roll in the past.
What? Thin stuff?
That one.
Rankin and Bond also have it in the city.
I got it here in Launceston at a recyclers actually.
Okay.
It was that long ago.
Yes. We'd be very lucky to get it. Rankin and Bond, the piece that I had, which was, 2 foot high and weighed somewhere in the vicinity of 50 kilos in 1987, cost me $1,000. It's $44,000 a tonne, folks. It doesn't matter whether it's one solid block and, so it does. The thinner it goes, the more expensive it is. For example, that tape for the so many metres that's in a roll, that works out to be $10. And yes, you get a fair amount out of it because you're actually putting it around the pieces of glass. But when you consider, like anything we make, there's a cost component in it. And sometimes it's really cheap to make a little light. But when you think, for example, that stained glass panel which I made for some people, some good friends of mine, that cost them a fair amount of money. I won't say price, because it's not a matter of price, but it's a fair amount of money to make it. You make it I could have made it in lead, but they wanted it to go into a cupboard where no one could see through it. And then when I gave it to Denise, she said, "Oh, that's wonderful. I can put a light behind it." And I said, "No, I made it for how you wanted it. If you put a light behind it, the light is going to wash it out." And what it became was just a straight panel of green glass, because the iodized glass is flashed. It's actually flat, it's clear on this side and coloured on that side. And the whole lot just washed out into nothing. So now they're going to actually frame it and put it on the wall as a piece of artwork. Yes?
How do you feel about patina on your copper? Which you can develop for yourself with.
Yes.
I've
got
and salt.
Yes. Well, patina's nice.
Yeah.
This will stay. It will go the dull, like copper goes, the nice patina, as does my bronze in my pond. When I got that from Mano, that had this wonderful aubergine colour. It's now getting the verdigris on it, and that's getting the greens and the browns and all that, and it's wonderful. Bring it back to an old story of a lady who moved into her son's unit for 6 months, and while he was away overseas, she decided to do some cleaning, and there on the mantelpiece was a tang horse, which is 30 BC, and she painstakingly cleaned it and wiped off $77,000 worth of patina. Not a good idea. What do I think of the patina?
Will you want to control it at times or not? Or?
Yes, I can. And sometimes it's nice, like in the copper panel I did with the flowers. That was, when I showed it to them with the copper edges and I hadn't started to solder it, they were in raptures about it. But when I showed them the fake patina that you can get, or chemical controlled patina, they said no, they wanted black. So by the time I had put on the black patina and polished it, they were in raptures about it. Yeah. There's endless things you can do.
Did you ever get back to finishing your windows at Roseville?
At Roseville?
Yeah,
no. Jill passed away. She wanted me to have the house, but it didn't work out that way. She got ill and the children stepped in and said, we're selling the house. That's fine. She was a nice lady, and what happened after she passed away, we went for a huge dinner. Like, they came out of the woodwork because her brother had been connected with the Davis Cup in 1912. So there's all this memorabilia hanging around the house. One cupboard, around about this big, in the hallway, was all silver plate. Another cupboard the same side was all sterling silver. And we went for this wonderful dinner that particular night, and we all ate off sterling silver plates. Everything, even the placemats were sterling silver. They weren't Stafford silver plated with felt underneath. They were solid sterling silver. The kids took that all to Melbourne. And the next day I went along and they said, oh, that's a room of junk in there. We don't want all that. Well, all that stuff ended at my place because to get to the tip, you had to go past my place. It was cheaper to bring it at my place than take to the tip. So what was in there was books that Jill had got when she found out how I was doing some lead lighting for the Dutchman down at Brookvale. She went out and bought books on lead lighting processes and colours and designs and things, and that was in these tea chests, and there were tea chests full of silver plate. So I've still got Jill with me today because I got all her china. Every time I went to garden, I had tea or coffee out of a different cup and saucer. Wow. And I gardened for her for 9 years, and no, I wasn't Lady Jackley's lover. Anyway, I think I've said enough. Does anybody ask anything else? No, good.